Well, good evening, and what a beautiful, uncensored evening it is. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, all seems right with the world. Well, that didn't last long, did it? Yes, summer has barely started when all hell's about to break loose. If you're hoping to get a train in the UK next week, well, forget it. Millions of people across the country just trying to go about their businesses are facing utter chaos because rail workers are striking over pay and jobs, and they say it could go on all summer. At least 50,000 workers will walk out, meaning fewer than 1 in 5 trains will run. Network Rail estimates that the strikes will cost the rail industry up to £150 million. Well, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said the strike could lead to rail workers losing their jobs.
I appeal directly to rail workers who I think are less militant than their union leaders. Don't risk striking. Don't risk the industry and your future. Don't risk striking yourself out of a job. Don't pitch yourself against the public.
Well, joining me now is the RMT union boss, Mick Lynch, who's responsible for all the mayhem that's about to come our way. Mr. Lynch, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Yeah, I suppose my question is this. We've just come through a 2-year pandemic. We have the appalling after effects rippling through Europe from war in Ukraine. We've just about got over the fractured mayhem of Brexit. And now, just when it looks like the sun is literally coming out and people can start to feel hopeful and positive about life, along come you, and you're going to cause complete chaos and mayhem for the British public for the foreseeable future. And I only ask you, why do you think this is the right time to do this?
Well, the sun's not going to shine on our members, Piers. If they lose their jobs, they're facing pay cuts in relation to living standards, and they're facing having their conditions ripped up. We've been engaging with these employers and indeed the Department for Transport and various ministers for more than 2 years since COVID commenced back in March 2020. And we've put to them last December that we needed the issues addressed. They've told us that thousands of jobs are going to be removed from the railway by compulsory redundancies if necessary, and that the pay freeze is going to continue. Now, we haven't had any offers on the issues at stake. They've had plenty of time to resolve these matters, and many of our members are going into the 3rd year now where they've not had a pay deal, any increment on their money at all. So we don't want this dispute, but we needed to make sure that the message was given that we're not going to accept our conditions being ripped up and being driven into a form of fire and rehire akin to P&O, which we also dealt with. And we think the government is taking the opportunity of COVID, the same as the aviation industry has done, to try and strip out jobs, strip out conditions and make people casualised across the UK. And it's a phenomenon that we're faced with, insecure work, precarious work, and we're not going to accept that. We're going to fight for our
Right, listen, I understand you
agreements.
fighting for your workers, I do. And I'm not against unions per se, and I've supported actions in the past when I felt that they're justified and they're well-timed. It's the timing of this. It's the fact that so many ordinary people going about their ordinary lives are going to be facing complete chaos for the next week and maybe many weeks after that, just at a time when everyone's starting to feel a little bit better about life. And I would put it to you, if you're putting the devil's advocate position on this, the government has pumped billions into the rail industry, as it has many other industries, throughout the carnage of the pandemic. Network Rail says they've not announced any job cuts and will find job savings by not replacing employees who leave the organisation through voluntary redundancy. Obviously, I guess that's an arguable point between you and them. You're after an 11% rise for your members, some of whom, as you know, not all, but some of whom are train drivers earning £54,000 a year. Now, I would say to you, look, I'm not against your workers being protected by you. You're doing your job. But when it comes to pay rises following a pandemic, why are we not giving nurses 11% pay rises? Police workers,
I want nurses
11% pay rises. People who are really at the real front line of all this.
Well, we were on the front line. Our members worked all the way through the pandemic.
They were driving trains, mate.
They were driving trains, they were fixing tracks, they were signalling trains, they were cleaning trains.
Yeah, but it's not the same as, you know, as actually saving lives. That's my point. It's all comparative. If we're going to be dishing out public money when there's very little public money to dish out, surely you would accept that health workers, for example, should be first in the line. They were in the real front line,
Well,
not
I'll
train
try and
drivers.
respond to that. I'll try and respond to that, Piers, if I can. Our members worked through the COVID. They were on the front line, and railway workers died and transport workers died as a result of being at work during that period. Now, we're not asking for compensation for that. All we're asking for is a pay increase that reflects what we've done during that period and the cost of living. We're also asking that we don't have our conditions ripped up and our jobs stripped back. Network Rail are making these cuts, and they have put to me directly across the table a proposed cut of 2,900 track workers directly. They've done that face to face. So it's just not true that they haven't proposed job cuts.
But isn't that a different issue, which is an issue of technology, that they believe they have technology now which will actually be safer than having human workers on the track potentially risking their lives?
We deal with technology all of the time, Piers. Ever since the Stephenson's rocket, we've dealt with changing the railway industry. But we must do that in an environment of agreement, not imposition. Now, if it comes to the question of other workers, and there are many deserving workers, and the British worker needs a pay rise, and we're part of the trade union movement, and we want all workers to have a pay rise.
But they can't all get 11%, Mick, can they?
11%
is a completely mad
If our
figure.
members do without their pay, nurses won't get a pay rise. Bin workers won't get a pay rise, care workers won't get a pay rise. What will happen is that the train operating companies and others who made £500 million of profit last year in the worst year of train revenues, £500 million they took out, they will just get increased profits. Two of the companies I'm dealing with right now are subject to takeover bids because they're so profitable. First Group, which is one of the chief train operating companies, made over £2 million a week last year. Go Ahead is subject to a takeover where they're bidding highly inflated share prices at £14.50 an hour. These people are making a killing, and it won't go to nurses and other people that deserve. It will go into the profit margins of these companies.
I mean, I've been watching you doing interviews for the last couple of weeks, and you're passionate about it. And again, I'm no problem with you trying to do the best job for your workers. But you've been banging on a lot about there's too many rich people in the country. You know, you earn £124,000 a year, right? I mean, that's not a small.
I don't.
That's your salary package, right?
No, it's not. My salary is £84,000 a year. If you
What's
had
the
national
total
insurance,
package?
Well, the total package includes tax and national insurance and pension contributions.
Well,
but my
everyone's
salary is
package includes that.
£84,000. I'm very happy with that.
Everyone's package includes that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, what's your package?
Well, I would hope more than yours.
Well,
but I'm not
why
running.
Why didn't you tell everyone what you earn? You asked me what I earn.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm not actually leading out my members, I don't have any, on a strike which is going to cause huge inconvenience to the British people.
The majority of people in this dispute are earning between £25,000 and £31,000.
Yeah, but some are only 54,000, aren't they?
Some probably earn more than that.
Rail
but
engineers...
the median salary for a railway worker that we're covering in this dispute is £31,000 a year.
Right, but train drivers can get 54,000 or more. Rail engineers can get up to 50,000. I mean, a lot of your workers earn good money. And my point is really, at a time of economic crisis, when people are literally struggling to feed their kids, when food bank queues are getting bigger, is this the right time for you to be holding the country to ransom for 11% pay rises?
Well, we're not holding anyone to ransom.
Well,
we haven't asked for 11. Well, if you let me answer the question, we haven't asked for an 11.
Fact.
Well, you're going to let me answer the question?
I am.
We haven't asked anyone in this dispute for an 11% pay rise. We've pointed out that inflation, the RPI, is currently 11.1. At the point we should have done a deal with Network Rail, it was 7.1. And last year, it was 0.9. Other companies, it was around 7.5% to 8%. So let's get that straight. We're not asking for 11%.
You are quoting that figure because you want that to be in headlines, right?
That's where inflation is going, and it's going above 11%. And if we don't get a pay rise this year, we'll have lost out for maybe between 15 or more percent.